welcome to Amy's whistle-stop tour through the law. This is the second part of our tour through contract law, looking at offers. So in the last video, we saw that a contract consists of an offer, acceptance, and the exchange of consideration. In today's episode, we will be looking at this first stage, the all-important offer. We will find out what an offer is and what an offer is not, and here we'll look at invitations to treat. So, in daily life, you make offers. You might offer to pick the kids up, for instance, and there really is no point confusing things with legal jargon. An offer in law is not some far removed, distant relative of other offers. It's still proposing something. Just in this case, it is offering with the intention of being legally bound by what you're proposing. It is saying clearly, this is what I want, and this is what I'll give you. Do you accept? For instance, you might walk into a bakery and say, I offer to buy 2 loaves of your finest artisan bread for £5. Now, if we zoom back to slide 1, here's our transaction at a distance. You offer the money for the loaves, the baker accepts, you exchange the loaves for the money, and there's the contract. So what are the requirements of an offer? An offer needs to have specific key terms. This means you couldn't say, I'll give you some money for some bread, mate. You need to say, how much money? How much bread? What bread? There can't be a need for further negotiation. It needs to be acceptable or rejectable. And there also needs to be intention to be legally bound by the terms. If you asked, how much for a loaf of bread? We wouldn't consider this an offer because you clearly didn't intend to purchase based on that remark. Similarly, if you offered to pick your sister up from school in return for your mum cooking your favourite dinner, you probably don't intend to take your mum to court if she doesn't follow through and makes you some rancid fish pie instead. But as you are dealing with an artisan bakery business in this example, when you say, I offer you £5 for 2 loaves, you're offering a financial transaction, and this would be considered intention to be legally bound. Another example is eBay. When you bid £5.19 for some crocs, you are offering them this money in exchange for the goods. And in the small print, you can see that eBay kindly informs you that you are contractually committed to buying this item from the seller if you're the winning bidder. The bidder, of course, receives lots of offers, and the highest offer is accepted. Now we know what an offer is, we can look at invitations to treat. They are a statement of willingness to negotiate or get offers. However, they lack the intention to create legal relations or the specific key terms needed to be offers. They are, therefore, proposals to solicit offers. In a shop window, for example, wine has £5 written on a label next to it. Is this an offer? Well, no. This is merely an invitation to treat. The buyer makes the offer at the checkout because up until this point, they are free to put the wine back on the shelf and walk by. And if you forget to bring ID, the seller will not accept your offer. Similarly, you go to the baker's and see a sign saying bread, £2. Yet it wouldn't be practical or the intention of the baker to be held to this, as what if they ran out of bread and they'd have nothing to offer you? They are merely inviting offers. Oh, here's a case. Finally, you'd think I was making the law up myself. So in Gibson against Manchester City Council, Mr. Gibson inquired about buying a council house. The council wrote to Gibson saying, the council may be prepared to sell you the house. They provided him details about the mortgage and told him to apply for the mortgage using the enclosed form, which Mr. Gibson did. And then, a bit later, a new government came along and they said they wouldn't be selling council houses under the Conservative policy unless there was already a legally binding contract. So, was this a contract? Well, for this to be an offer, you need specific key terms and an intention to be bound by the terms. Now, the terms seem fairly specific, but does the council may be prepared to sell really scream out that they intended to be bound by that? No, and asking him to apply on a separate form also implies that he wasn't merely accepting an offer that they sent. So this was not deemed to be an offer, but an invitation to treat. Now, in this case here, Mr. Partridge had advertised Bamblefinch hens in a newspaper. It was illegal to offer these birds for sale. His advert read, Bamblefinch cocks, Bamblefinch hens, 25 shillings each. But the High Court found that this was not an offer for sale. They commented that the advert didn't state the birds were for sale, and that there is business sense in construing adverts as invitations to treat instead of offers, because adverts are not unequivocal promises. If you saw a bike being advertised on the front page of a newspaper, there'd be significant logistical errors in construing it as an offer. What if it's already been sold? They're merely advertising that they are, at that point, willing to consider offers. Because otherwise, they might not have the item anymore. This was commented in Granger and Son against Goff. They said, the merchant might find himself involved in any number of contractual obligations to supply wine of a particular description, which he would be quite unable to carry out, his stock of wine of that description being necessarily limited. So it's clear that it isn't practical for adverts to acquaint to offers. And despite the fact that the general rule is that adverts aren't offers, the case of Carlyle against Carbolic Smoke Ball Company is an exception. The Carbolic Smoke Ball Company invented a smoke ball which they claimed would prevent the flu. Such was their certainty that they advertised that any person who contracts the flu after using their smoke ball 3 times a day for 2 weeks would be paid £100. They said £1,000 is deposited with the Alliance Bank, showing our sincerity in the matter. But Mrs. Carlyle brought the ball and used it correctly, and she still got the flu. She tried to claim the reward, but she was told that that was just an advert, not an offer, and the promise of money was just a sales puff. Sorry. But were there specific key terms, and was there demonstrable intention to be legally bound? Well, the court held that the statement referring to the deposit of £1,000 demonstrated intent. The Carbolic Smoking Ball Company also tried to argue that the offer wasn't directed at a specific party, but the court held it is quite possible to make an offer to all those who have used the ball and have the flu. So this was considered an offer, and the poor woman with the flu was able to claim her £100. You might have wondered why, earlier, when you were bidding on the crocs, it was your bid that constituted the offer. Why not her listing? Surely she is offering you the crocs and you are accepting. Well, no, because then she'd be bound to you, and the money you said you'd pay, and wouldn't be able to consider higher offers. According to British Car Auction Limited, an auction is just an invitation to treat. The highest offer is accepted by the fall of the hammer, or in the modern sense, the time running out on the bid. So, today we've seen what an offer is, and that is a proposal to enter a contract. It requires specific key terms and intention to be legally bound by these terms. We've also looked at invitations to treat, which are proposals to solicit offers or negotiation. Then we've seen how it applies to birds, houses, wine, and leopard print crocs. We saw that in Pharmaceutical Society against Boots, goods out on shop shelves are just invitations to treat. We make an offer at the till. Maybe you can see some practical problems with this case, because we don't tend to go into shops and pick up items only to get to the till and be told we can't have them, they won't accept our offer. We don't even theorise shopping in this way. It would be perfectly reasonable to think that by paying, you are accepting their offer. But anyway, this is how the law works. We looked at Gibson against Manchester City Council, where they said, we may sell you the property. This wasn't specific enough to be an offer. We saw Partridge against Crittenden, where the birds were advertised, but this was not considered an offer for sale, even though Mr. Partridge would send the bird in exchange for the money. Maybe this sits uncomfortably with you, for surely this is no different to an offer, but the general rule is that adverts don't have the necessary intention to be legally bound to constitute an offer. As was said in Granger and Son against Goff, what if the seller ran out of goods to supply after they'd advertised it? It wouldn't be fair to say he had intention to enter a contract with every person who said they wanted wine, despite having no remaining stock. Maybe in the modern day, this doesn't seem so fair. Online shopping, for instance, you browse through Tesco's advertised products with the assumption that they are in stock. But this is the law. Finally, we saw that in exceptional cases, adverts can be offers if they have specific key terms and intention to be bound. You might think certain aspects of contract law don't make total sense. Why isn't an advert for birds an offer? Well, contract law is a subject that revolves around certainty, not necessarily fairness, and it is in the interest of certainty that offers are clear, require no further negotiation, and have intention to be legally bound, so that you, the offerer, know what you're offering, so that the offeree knows what she's accepting, and so that the courts know what they're dealing with. In the next episode, we will be looking at acceptance. Thank you for watching, and see you soon!